Good morning, everybody. This is actually take 3 on me trying to do this video. I'm going to start with a dream because it kind of says a lot about where I am, and I think it's apropos to the conversation that I wanted to have today about story. In the dream, there are these ICE agents, the Border Patrol, that are carrying out the mass deportations right now. And they bust down the door in my house, enter my house, and I'm yelling at them, "Do you have a warrant? Get out of here." And that's the whole dream. And I think it says something about where I am at the moment. I think I did that video. I mean, partly it's like there's all these things happening in my life. I spoke about my friend who was diagnosed with cancer, my friend who had the miscarriage, my brother having a heart attack. So I think I'm a little shaking up. But also, along with all of that, I think it's freaking me out a little bit doing these recordings. And I think it's freaking me out how well they're going and how much positive feedback I'm getting. So last couple of weeks, I've been a little off. I've been a little like, I did the last video, but I wasn't quite in the flow when I did it. Didn't quite feel like where I wanted to be. And I'm struggling. I started doing this video yesterday. I stopped. I did a write-up last night. Got up this morning, did another write-up. And I think part of it is I'm just this energy that kind of like that dream where I think there's this energy that's like, who do you think you are to do this? Who do you think you are to talk about God? Who do you think you are to speak about consciousness? Who do you think you are that you have something to offer to the world? And I think it's apropos to understanding dreams in the sense that the dream's not literal. It's not like I am not dealing with what migrant farm workers are dealing with. I'm not dealing with the attack that happened in New York on the activist getting arrested. Nobody's busting my door down. But I think on an energetic level, there's these old energies that are saying to me, you don't have a right to speak. You don't have a right to have your voice. And one of the great things about dreams is they give us some clarity about what that looks like. They give us some clarity of like, okay, Bill, this energy has gotten under your skin. It's in your house. I guess I'm happy that in the dream I'm yelling back at them because it says something about even though they've gotten under my skin, I'm in the fight. I guess particularly the last week since the last video, and I've just really been praying of like, okay, I lost my mojo. Where did it go? What's happening here? And I think this dream is an answer to my prayers. It's saying, okay, you have these old energies coming in. And I think it's pretty normal when we open up. I think it's pretty normal when we find our voice. I saw a statistic the other day about podcasts, particularly how like 90% of the podcast on Spotify or Apple or one of these big platforms, nothing's been posted to them in a year, which means that people started finding their voice, I think in other cases, people start doing YouTube, they start writing, and this sort of thing happens where they have that initial energy. I think this happens to a lot of us. Like we go through these cycles where we have this initial energy to do something, we open up, and then there's this backlash or counterattack that happens inside of us and we lose momentum. One of the amazing things about dreams, one of the things I feel lucky, I feel blessed in a way to have this dream, which was an upsetting dream. I mean, I had to take a couple of days before I could do this video because I think I was originally overriding a little bit how upsetting the dream was. And I think I needed some time to be with how upsetting it was. I've had a lot of things in my past where people told me I didn't have a right to speak about dreams, about God. And it's helpful to just like, okay, this is a fight. This is a fight for everybody, really. Like, this is my fight. This is your fight. We live in a world where we're told to accept the culture story of who we are. And when we go against that story, there's a backlash. I think at its core, that's why there's such an attack on trans people right now. I think their courage, their ownership of who they are, challenges the very core story of this culture that you're not allowed to claim your own identity, whether that's gender or anything else. You're just not allowed to go. You have to go with the story you were assigned at birth. And I think it's a truly radical thing to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna go beyond your story of who I am, and I'm going to explore who I am. One of the amazing things about dreams is they really do two things in regard to story. They show you the ways that you learn the story that you have. So we all have a story, which is fine on one level. The problem isn't really the story we have. The problem is that we're taught that we're not allowed to veer away from that story. We're not allowed to veer away from the story that we're assigned at birth, if you will. And the problem with that is that most of us are given stories throughout our lives that really are a diminished version of who we are. Most of us are much bigger, more brilliant, more beautiful people than the stories that are told about us. And the reason we think dreams are weird is because dreams don't accept that story. They don't accept that. They show us that story is a created story, that it's not truth. It may have partial truth to it, but it's not truth. And dreams will expose just how the story was created. And usually that story is created under some threat, where we're taught, usually with some threat of some kind of violence of some type. And that might not be literal violence. It could be emotional isolation. It could be all sorts of things that keep us afraid of having our voice. Excuse me. The other really amazing thing that stories do is they show us that beauty and brilliance. They show us a much wilder, bigger story of who we are. I love that about dreams. And it seems weird to us because it's hard for us to let in that bigger, more brilliant story of who we are. But dreams aren't weird. What's weird is that our culture doesn't make space for us to explore the depth of who we are. What's weird is that this culture attacks people who challenge that norm. On a very personal level, I know even in my own work as a dream teacher, my original teacher just had no tolerance for me finding my own voice. It all had to go through him. And there was a threat. Like as soon as I went up against that and said, no, actually, that's not okay with me, he tried to totally isolate me from my economic situation because I was working under him as a dream therapist. He tried to isolate me socially. And it was hard. It's hard to go up against those threats, especially when they come through somebody that you care about, which I guess if it's not someone you care about, it's often emotionally less challenging. But most of us are dealing with places in our past where we tried to open up in some way and came up against someone emotionally if nothing else, threatening to isolate us, emotionally threatening to go away. And people have a right to go wherever they want to go, but we can do that with respect. We can learn. I don't have a problem with my old teacher wanting to do what he wanted to do, teaching what he wanted to teach his way. What I have no patience for anymore is teachers of any kind that don't focus on, I think as teachers, we should all be focusing on helping our students, helping our dreamers in this case, to find their own voice. If you don't agree with me, if what I say doesn't resonate with you, that's not threatening to me in any way. I want people to find their own relationship to their dreams. I want to have my own relationship to my dreams. I want to have a world and a community where we're all exploring that. And those differences aren't threatening to me in any way. Going back to the trans story that I mentioned earlier, in the thread of that, one of the things, I watched this show on Netflix called Will and Harper, and one of the things that I came away with was just like how unthreatening, how threatened people were by Harper in the story. It's the story of Will Ferrell going across country with a writer from Saturday Night Live who's come out as trans as an adult in his late 50s, or I think he's about my age now. And there was nothing threatening about this person in and of themselves. What people are threatened by is the same reason I think people are threatened by dreams. They're threatened by the possibility that people could explore a different version of who they are. Me, I want to celebrate that. I think that we can actually find bigger and more beautiful versions of who we are than what we've been taught. I had another dream after that dream where I was seeing these people who were deceased visiting people. At one point, I think I was even amongst the deceased. I don't know whether I was deceased or not, but I was amongst the deceased, so I could kind of see what they were seeing. And they were visiting people. I think it was people they knew from when they were alive. And there was this sense of presence and a very kind of grounded love. It wasn't kind of emotional love. It was more spiritual or grounded kind of love. And most of the people they were visiting they didn't know they were there. They couldn't let it in. I think there were moments where some people were like, is there somebody here in the room? And I like that dream. I think it's a good follow-up dream for me to the ice dream, because I don't think we need to fight alone. I think part of the problem for me in that dream is I'm challenging those voices by myself. I mean, I'm glad I'm challenging them, but I think it's much more powerful to challenge them with a sense of these spirits at your back. Like I've been really thinking about, like I lost a brother 47 years ago now, 46 years ago, someone I was so close to, so devastating to lose him. But part of how I was actually, okay, let's go back to the microphone again, Bill, let's go back to the camera again, was because I chose to feel him at my back. I chose to take that dream and be with it, and be with okay, what would it be like for me to feel like my brother is here at my back? What would it be like for me to feel like my parents, who didn't always understand me and therefore weren't always able to support me in ways that I felt like I needed, what if they're here now at my back in some different way? And I think that's also part of why I'm doing these recordings. I think that we need each other. We can't fight this battle alone. We need kind of spiritual support and guidance, I think, that we can get from our dreams, and we need each other. Bottom line, we need each other. People will sometimes talk about how brilliant I am working with dreams, and I appreciate that, and I try to let it in. I do think I'm good at it. I do think I'm brilliant. I think I can say that without too much difficulty. But I learned that by being on this journey with many of you. I would not have gotten to where I am without the help that the people I work with teach me. I feel like I'm being taught as I teach, because my model of teaching is to let people find themselves. And when people have the courage to find themselves, it may be different than the way I would find myself, but it still gives me the courage to find myself. And I love that. I love living this way. Even when it's a battle, I would rather be in this battle than anywhere else on the planet. I'm not the best person at learning how to fight. It's not really my preferred style, or it's not my learned style. I've learned to be very conflict averse, but I'm learning. There's this thing happening in Canada now called elbows up in regard to the tariff war, and I appreciate that. I feel like we all need to learn to have elbows up. I think it's a hockey reference. I'm not a sports person either. I think it's a hockey reference for those of you that aren't sports people. I'm sure sports people understand that, but I think it's a reference to, like, let's play a little rough. If we need to fight, let's fight. And I think I can learn to do that. I think I've learned to do that through the courage of the people that I work with. So all of that, I think I found my mojo again. I hope this is helpful to you in your own in your own battles and your own understanding of dreams. If you have questions, or you have a dream you want me to work with in one of these recordings, please let me know, either in the comments, or if you're on our email list, then you can send it to me in an email. I think I'm only going to do one at a time, so if you send it, I might not be able to do it right away, but I definitely would like to keep doing that, and I'd love to answer questions. So if you have a question about any of this, please let me know. And if you're willing to help me out a little bit, if you want to get the word out about this, please consider sharing this with somebody else. If you know anyone who told you, oh, I had this weird dream, send this video to them. That would help me out tremendously. Of course, like and subscribe. That also helps. Write a comment. Actually really helps if people write comments. Just say, hey, or that was great, or that was confusing, whatever. Even negative comments supposedly help out. So that's it for today. Elbows up, sweet dreams, and I'll see you next time.